Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Appalachian State University Zoom user training. My name is Marco Innocenti, and I'm going to be taking you through the Zoom application today. Here at Zoom, we like to say any device, anywhere. It really is a product that you can use on your desktop or laptop to host or attend meetings, tablet and mobile devices that you can, again, host and attend meetings. You can invite different room systems, and we have our own Zoom rooms as well. And of course, you can always use Zoom by calling into the telephone or even having Zoom call out to you in case you're going into a meeting as well. Quick overview of the content we're going to be covering today. So first thing we're going to look at is logging in and creating your Zoom account. We'll then dive into the web portal, looking at your profile, some of the settings that we want to look at there, and then just general settings for My Meetings as well. We'll then move into the Zoom client itself, again looking at settings and walk through the client itself. We will also take a look at the in-session controls, so what actually the controls are for you while you're in a Zoom meeting. We'll talk about scheduling Zoom meetings and some plugins. We'll look at the Zoom mobile app, and then we'll talk about Zoom support as well. So first, logging in. There is a branded site specifically for Appalachian State. It is appstate.zoom.us. You go into, put in this URL, and you can log in here to either start your meetings, join the meetings, or if this is your first going to be creating your account, you would come here as well, and you would actually click login. That then actually takes you to your internal single sign-on tool. So with Zoom, you don't have to create your own another username and password and worry about anything new. You can use your existing Appalachian State username and password, and it will create your Zoom account for you, and that will be tied to it. So you'll have the same logins as you do for your other services internally. When you do get in, the first place it's going to take you is to your profile. And what you're going to see off to the left is a few items that you can view: my profile, my meetings, my recordings, my webinars, account management, and report. So these are really where we're going to focus today, really just on the first two for profile and meetings. When you first create your profile, one of the things you're going to want to do is change the picture icon that's there. Putting in a picture of yourself that you want to use will actually persist all the way through the Zoom client itself onto many applications within it. So it won't be just stored in the web app, it'll also be stored into the desktop application from there, as well as if you pause your video while you're hosting meetings, it'll show your picture there instead of just the no-faced icon. You get to see what your user type is by looking on your profile. So, you know, if you have different things assigned to you, like a webinar or different levels, you will see that here when you log in. At Zoom, we have this concept of a personal meeting ID and a personal vanity URL. They are tied closely together. The personal meeting ID is an auto-generated number when it's first set to you, but it is something that you can change and update to a number that perhaps you're familiar with. You can use your phone number. You know, many people use their office line, myself included, as the number for my personal ID. Something I remember, very easy for me to give out to people. And then you can also create a personal vanity URL where you basically put your name into a link that will tie directly back to the same personal meeting ID. The two of them, again, tied together, but you can set and customize these as you like. So for example, here's what mine looks like. You know, my personal meeting ID I've set to my desk line, which is 805-738-5283. And then my vanity URL has my first and last name at the end of it. And what I've done is actually I take that vanity URL and I've dropped that into the signature block that I use. So you can actually click on that link where it says Zoom, and that's my name. That will actually drop you right into my personal meeting. So it's a great way to kind of personalize the service and have your own meeting scheduled. You want to make sure you set your time zone as well. This is helpful when you're going to be scheduling meetings and putting things together. It'll default to your time zone, so you won't have to worry about that. And then we're going to transition here at the top to settings. So these are your personal settings that you're going to be looking at for controls that you have while you're hosting Zoom. The first section here across the top, we call it in-meeting basics. So these are basic controls that you can allow turn on or off by default while you're hosting meetings. So if you want chat to be available, you want to make sure that that little red check is, or the little green check is on. And again, that's for when you're hosting meetings, actually in the meeting that you want chat to be available. If for some reason you don't want to allow private chat within the meetings that you're going to be hosting, and you know that's going to be the case for all of them that you're hosting, you can unselect it here so you don't have to worry about deselecting it within any given meeting. You can auto-save your chats if you'd like. The feature here, allow hosts to put attendees on hold, is so if you want to be able to put any given attendee on hold, if you have to, for instance, sneeze or something like that, you put them on hold, the screen goes black, it kind of mutes everything. They are not kicked out of the meeting, but it just actually, pauses them from being able to see anything. You can turn on enter and exit chimes. That's like a little doorbell anytime anyone comes in or out. If you want to look at, make sure you're sending feedback to Zoom, you can check that. Moving below that, we have in-meeting advanced. So again, still things that happen in meeting. The first two here are breakout room and remote support. We really like breakout rooms. It's a great way to, if you're delivering content to a larger audience and then want to split pieces of that audience up to have an internal discussion, you want to make sure that you have breakout rooms checked so that you allow that. We'll dive into those deeper when we get into the in-session controls, but definitely something that you want to make sure you have checked. File transfer. If you want to allow file transfer to happen through the chat client within your meetings, you need to make sure you do have it selected here. Otherwise, by default, all of your meetings won't have file transfer enabled for them. If you want to have closed captioning for your meetings, if you want to have far-end camera control, perhaps controlling another camera, and if you're going to have dual cameras, you can check all of that here. Recordings, you won't have cloud recording, but you will have local recording, so that will be checked for you. And we'll show you what path that those recordings come down to. And then the bottom one here, email notifications. The first one is, when attendees join meeting before host. I personally really like this feature and have it checked for mine. It lets me know, if people join my meeting 5 minutes early that I've got scheduled. If I'm not on another call, I'll get that email and I can see, oh, someone's joined the call. I'll go ahead and jump in. And we can get into and start having the conversation that we had scheduled a little bit early. So from here, we're going to transition off of my profile to my meetings, which is the next tab down. And here you have upcoming meetings by default. It shows you all of your upcoming meetings. It always lists the recurring meetings first, and then it will list them out by date and time for the rest of your upcoming meetings. It shows you the topic for each of those meetings that you've got scheduled. It tells you what those meeting IDs are, so you know what those meeting IDs are. And then you have the ability to start any of these meetings actually from the web app itself. So if you're in the web portal, you can start any one of these scheduled meetings if you wanted to, or if you've got a scheduled meeting you want to get rid of, you could actually delete them from here. Another important call out is you'll notice the top one, it just says personal meeting room and Marco Innocenti's personal meeting room. And again, there's that ID, the 805-738-5283. So this is that personal meeting set to myself. Anytime I want to start just a quick meeting, call it a one-off meeting, it will set to my personal meeting room and I can start those from the web application. There are other places we can start that and we'll take a look at those, but it is an option to start it directly from the web. You can actually also schedule meetings from here. We're going to take a look at that a little bit later, but just so you know, we'll come back to this, but you can schedule meetings directly from the web portal. Okay, so now we are going to jump into the Zoom client. For Zoom, you do have to download the client itself onto your machine to be able to use it. You can do that at zoom.us/download. Make sure you choose the right type for what you're going to download, whether it's a Mac or a Windows machine. And then once you do, you'll have this persistent application that looks something like this. And here you'll see my picture here on, if you updated your profile picture where we looked at earlier, that will show up for you here. And you can actually set yourself to be available or unavailable. With the client, you can actually start with a meeting with video, start a meeting without video if for some reason you wanted to. You could schedule a meeting directly from here. And you could join a meeting directly from here. So if someone provided you an ID and they said, hey, I've got a Zoom meeting I need you to come into, you can plug it in here and jump right in. At the bottom ribbon as well, you have a few options to toggle through screens. This is the home screen we're on now. There's a meeting screen, contacts, and chats. And then up at the top, there's a little gear icon for settings, which we're going to jump into for some key settings you're going to want to take a look at when you first install the application. So general settings, you've got the general tab, Mac and Windows. You can look for your machines. It just gives you a bunch of different options that you're going to want to make sure you look through that you may want to check or uncheck. Something like enter full screen automatically when starting or joining meetings. I personally don't like to enter the full screen right away, so I have that unchecked. Just a simple example of things that you can look at. Next one over is audio. So this one I definitely recommend you spend a little time testing out. You want to make sure that before you get into any meetings that your audio is set up correctly, you have the ability to test the sound for your speakers. And if you want to make sure that you have it going through not necessarily the computer itself, but the audio source that you may be using. And you can toggle between different audio sources if you need to. It give you the drop down, it'll show you what's available and choose the correct one. And again, you can test it. And you'll also see the levels coming through the microphone, so you want to also make sure that you have the correct mic selected. Video settings, much like audio, you can toggle through video settings as well. You can toggle through if you've got multiple cameras set up. For example, in this instance, I have my laptop off to the side that's plugged into just a monitor, and I have another camera on the monitor itself. And so I'm plugged into that Logitech monitor versus the one that's associated with my laptop. So just where you want the camera view coming in as well. So something to check before you start your meetings, and just a setting you want to review. Recordings. So by default, the recording path will be set for you. You can see the path here, users, Marco Innocenti, document, Zoom if you're on a Mac. If you are on a Windows, it would be user, Zoom, documents, supports, and then Zoom. Whichever machine you have, you can change that file location, certainly if you'd like to, but that will be the default. Okay, so we're going to look back at the client again. We're going to focus, again, we're going to look at the bottom ribbon. We're really going to look at the meetings itself, and just focus on that button. When you do that, and you come in here, much like you could in the web application, you'll notice at the top it says upcoming and recording. Well, with upcoming, the desktop application allows you to see all the scheduled meetings that you've got coming up, that you are the host of. So you don't actually have to log into the web portal to look at those. You can actually do it right from your desktop client. If you've been recording meetings, you can also look at those here. You don't have to, again, go to the web application for that. You just click on the little recorded side, and it will show you the recording. You don't even have to navigate into, the folders on your machine. They are accessible through the Zoom desktop application. Okay, so let's talk about actually in the meeting itself and the controls that you have available to you. When you first join a meeting, it's going to come into this kind of default view. If you've got everything turned off and not using any video, it will tell you the meeting topic, who the host is, and what the invitation was. So Josh was the host of this meeting, so we'll see his name pop up a few times through the next set here. We're going to kind of go from left to right along the bottom here and first focus on the audio options. So you've got the little microphone, which is, mute and unmute yourself simply by clicking on it. But then there is the little caret, the up caret, where you can look at a few other options. If you need to change the set microphone or speakers, just like we looked at before, you can actually do that here as well. And then there's something here that says audio options, that when you select that, it then brings you into the specific type of audio options for the specific meeting that you're in. So are you on computer audio? And you can kind of set that as the default, so you're always coming in as VoIP. You can join by phone if you'd like to. So if you don't have a headset for whatever reason attached to your machine and you want to call in, it gives you the number that you can call into that specific meeting. If you need it to call you for whatever reason, you can go ahead and type in your phone number and the meeting will actually call back out to you. The next one over is video settings. So similar to mute, you can kind of mute or audio, you can mute your video on and off just by clicking on it. And then again, there is the up caret where you can change the video source if you need to change the cameras that are set there. And then again, video settings that you can click on as well. This opens up the familiar video settings section that we took a little look at earlier. Again, you can change your camera, turn on mirroring effects, and a few others that you may want to do. So we're going to take a look at the different camera views now. So if you've got a meeting and you're in there kind of by yourself and you're not showing your camera, this is what it's going to look like for you when you within the Zoom application. It's just going to show, again, this would be the picture of yourself from your profile. will show here, and it'll just be the tile of itself. Once you start video and have a couple of people in the video, you have a few different options of the different camera views that you may want to use. This one here is called active speaker view, where the main body of the Zoom application gets filled in with the person that is actively speaking. So as each person speaks, it will actually transition out and the larger screen will show who is in there. As the host, again, Josh was the host here, you can actually click on your little tile video, and you could mute your audio if you wanted to directly from here. You could pin your video so it's always in the same spot. You can spotlight yourself. If you wanted to rename yourself when you got into the video, you could do that as well. As the host, you can also click on one of the additional participants right from here, and you could unmute or mute their audio. You could mute their video if you wanted to. So for whatever reason, something's going on in someone's background, you don't want to see it, you can turn that off. You could start a chat with them directly from here. You could, again, pin their video, spotlight it. You could make someone else the host. If you knew perhaps you were going to leave and you wanted to turn over full host controls, you could do that. Co-hosts, you could allow someone else to record. So if you don't want to have the responsibility of recording that meeting, you can push that over to somebody else. If you see someone in there that you don't expect to be there and don't want them to be there, you could actually remove them, rename them, put someone on hold, and even request someone to have camera control to move around their camera if it can move. Now, up in the right here, you would have the ability to actually change camera views as well. So from active speaker, we're switching to now what's called gallery view. So this is basically takes however many attendees there are, and it right sizes all the tiles to be the same size and kind of makes it so you see everybody together. The person that is speaking will be highlighted. So you'll see that here. You can actually have up to 25 tiles on any given screen within Zoom. So if you're holding up to a 50-person meeting and you've actually got all 50 people in there and all 50 people are on camera, you'll see 25 tiles on the screen one, and then you'll have the ability to then move over to the second screen to see the rest of the people that are in there. Okay, so assuming you haven't already scheduled the meeting and sent out an invitation, which we will take a look at later, but you wanted to maybe invite someone to an instant meeting that you maybe started. So here you've got the little invite button that you would click on. You can invite people by mail, so your default mail client, Gmail and Yahoo, there's some direct integrations, but if you're using something different and you want to just copy the URL, you can simply copy it here. You can copy the full invitation, and then you can paste those into whatever location you want. Zoom does have its own internal chat client that comes along with that application that we looked at earlier. So you could simply find someone in here by typing in their name. Once it finds them, the little invite pops up and you can invite someone directly into your meeting. It gives them a little notification in their window. You can invite someone by phone. So much like how you could have it call you, you could have it call someone else if you want to just bring them in over the phone if you know they're not going to be at their computer. And you could even invite a room system, again, dialing in or calling out too. We're now going to take a look at participants. So while you're hosting a meeting, all the participants that come in the meeting, you'll have the ability to do a few actions with them. Once you click on that, you'll see it will open up a window to show you all the participants that are in the meeting. It tells you that you are the host. You have the ability to kind of mute and unmute yourself, rename yourself again here like we saw earlier. You actually see if other people have muted or themselves or turned their camera off. You'll see that here as well. You can unmute them if you wanted to also, so another thing that you can do. With the down caret here, you can start a chat again directly from here. So very similar to what we saw with the tiles by clicking on it. You can chat with someone, make them a host, co-host, allow them to record, rename them, or even remove them. Along the bottom section here, there is a more option as well. So this is where you can mute participants on entry or even play enter and exit chimes. So having, again, that doorbell sound when someone's coming in and out. Great for maybe smaller meetings, but if you're holding a really large session, it might be kind of distracting to constantly have that chime going off. So you may want to turn that off for the specific meeting if you do know it's going to be larger. But a great thing is if you're having one of those large meetings is to actually mute participants on entry. So this will make it so by default, as soon as everyone comes in, their audio is turned off. When you do that, it brings up this little, the next window that gives you the option to allow participants to unmute themselves. So this is something that I typically have set when I'm doing larger trainings. I will mute everyone on entry, and I'll allow them to unmute themselves. And I'll state that in the beginning of the call, hey, just so everyone knows you are muted, but please feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question and want to discuss something that we're talking about. If you don't want them to be able to unmute themselves, you can certainly save it that way as well, and then they can notify you by either raising their hand in the application or chatting you saying, hey, I'd like to say something, and then you could unmute them manually. Okay, so next one over is sharing your screen. So kind of another big meat piece of Zoom is actually showing what's on your desktop and presenting. So you can share your screen. It gives you actually multiple options of what you can share. If you're running a dual desktop scenario, it will give you the option. Do you want to show desktop 1 or 2? With these, it is showing the entire desktop, so all applications and everything that is on there. We have a whiteboard feature that is basically just a blank white screen that you could share as well. And then with our annotation tools, which we'll talk about in a second, you can draw pictures, text box, shapes, whatever it may be that you want to put together, and you can even save those to review later. You can actually share an iPhone/iPad if you want to do that. It'll look, you'll be sharing exactly what's on your phone, scrolling through whatever applications you have, just sharing the camera. Or you can even share just specific applications that are running on your machine if you don't want to share the entire desktop. So any open application that you have, you would be able to share just that. You highlight the item that you want to share, and you can either double click it to start it, or you can highlight it once and click share screen. Then once you come into share screen, it will be looking at your computer here. But at the top, what you'll see is, a notification that green means live, that you are sharing, and you have the little red icon to stop sharing at any time. Along with the green and red stop share, you have some options that pop up for you, similar to what we saw before around unmuting and muting yourself, the video, manage participants. But now you notice that it says new share instead of just screen share. So say you're sharing a specific application, maybe it was PowerPoint and you're ready to then move to show a web application. You could quickly just hit new share and then choose the new format that you want to share and then go into there. You can pause your screen sharing. So if anytime you get to a place where you maybe notice you need to edit something a few slides down and you just want to pause it real quick on the slide you're at without actually turning everything off, you can do that. You would hit pause, shows you it turns to yellow instead of green, and then you just hit resume share when you are ready to start sharing your screen again. The next one over is annotation tools. We have a series of annotation tools available, if you want to move back to the normal mouse. I'm using the Spotlight, which I really like, but there's also under Spotlight, there is arrows that you can move around. Again, text box, you can draw, erases something if you put something there you don't want, and again, you can change colors. And of course, you can save whatever you do draw during that session. The next control over is remote control. So this is where it looks like a mouse. So basically what you're giving someone is keyboard and mouse control over your machine. So anyone you have joined the meeting, you could give them keyboard and mouse control. And the use case for this is think something like, again, I'm going to use the example of PowerPoint, but a shared PowerPoint where there's maybe 4 or 5 slides that you're the main presenter, but there's 4 or 5 slides where you have a co-presenter. So instead of them having, and you're the one holding the main deck, instead of asking them, or them telling you, hey, can you please progress to the next slide please, you could, when you get to that section of the presentation, could give them keyboard and mouse control. And then they could click through at the correct pace without having to do the awkward question of please move to the next slide. As the owner of the machine, just so you know, you always do have the control. All you would have to do is wiggle your mouse and it immediately takes control away from them. And then of course you can stop remote control as well, just completely turn it off. Under the more, again, you can start your chats from here. You can start breakout rooms from here, which we'll look at, the invite, which is we already covered. If you can record to the computer or the cloud, it will be to the computer for Appalachian State. Disable annotation. So if you don't want your attendees to also be able to draw, so it's not just the host that can draw. If you want to disable it from the attendees, you can turn that off and you can jump into your settings. Stopping share is really easy. You hit the stop share at the top, and then it brings you back here, so nothing is being shared, so it brings you back to that first screen we saw, which is the default screen. Now we're going to look at chat. So if you bring up chat, you have the ability to chat to anyone within the client that happens to be in the meeting itself. You can chat to everyone, so that will send a chat out that everybody in the meeting will see, or you can chat privately to someone as well. So you would click the little down caret on the everyone, choose a specific person you want to send a private chat to, and you will see the difference between those noted here. On the right-hand side, there's a little more button as well, where this is where you could send a file through the chat if you wanted to, and you can save the chat to your desktop as well as the host. Going to skip over recording for right now and actually talk about breakout rooms first. So breakout rooms is that 4 kind of tile on the far right. And breakout rooms, again, just like they sound like, you create a series of rooms for the group of participants that you have in your meeting that they will go off and have their own meetings and then come back and join the main one later. So by clicking the breakout rooms, it pops up for you the option to assign participants into however many rooms that you want to designate. You can have it set them automatically, so it will just, the computer will randomly choose who goes where, or you can choose who goes into which breakout room. So you choose manually, create breakout rooms, 2 breakout rooms get set up, and then off to the right you have assign. So you click assign, choose the people that you want to put into that particular meeting, hit assign again, and it moves them in. If you put someone in the room you don't mean to, you can actually move them to a different room. Then you would go to assign on the next room, check the next names, push them into the second room as well. As the host, you have the ability to actually join the rooms as well. So any given room, the host can go back and forth to them. So as a host, when you're looking at the breakout rooms, you'll see join. It'll ask you, do you want to join breakout room 1? You say yes, and you jump right in. Josh, again, was the host of this meeting, so now his name is there, and he can leave that meeting. He does have to leave it before he could join the next breakout room. At the bottom, there's also close all rooms. So once you're ready to end the breakout rooms, you would hit close out rooms, and then the attendees in each breakout room will get a 30-second countdown window that pops up, basically letting them know breakout rooms are going to close, going to come back together into the main meeting. Everything closes down, and then maybe you want to do the breakout rooms again, right? You came to another part in the second that you want to have another conversation from a different topic, create the breakout rooms again. You click on the breakout rooms. You could open all rooms up exactly as they are, or you could recreate them if you want to perhaps have it now automatically assigned, or again, manually assigned, and just change around who shows up in each room. You can do that here. You would hit recreate all rooms, and then the breakout rooms get set again. Okay, now backing up to recording, there is a little up caret around record when you press that, where you would be recording to this computer in your instance. And recording is pretty straightforward. Once the recording is on, it'll let you know, and you'll see the little stop recording on up to the top left. And then once you are ready at any given point to stop the recording, you would go ahead and do that. To locate your recordings, again, like we saw earlier, you will find them on your computer stored, depending if you're using Mac or Windows, within either Zoom recordings or Zoom folder. You can also, again, find them within the desktop application itself, like we talked about. So recorded meetings stored locally to your machine. You can share them directly from here, view the recordings directly from here as well. So you can play the video, you could play just the audio, you could open that recording, and you could remove that recording, all right from your desktop application. To end the meeting, pretty self-explanatory here as well. There's just end meeting in the far right. You could also close it out through the X. You end meeting, you have the option to have it ask you if you would like to end meeting for everyone or not, and you could do that. You shut down the meeting, and then it's over. So we're going to jump now into scheduling. So not so much the meeting controls. We're going to kind of move back around and talk about scheduling and some plugins. So you can schedule a meeting from the web, like we saw earlier. If you remember, you log into the web profile, you go to My Meetings, there is the scheduling option here. When you click into that, it brings up a basic screen where you can start running through the different options for all of the meeting information. You want to set your topic, when the meeting is going to be, how long it's going to last. Important note on that is even if you put an hour and the meeting happens to last an hour and a half, nothing to worry about. It will continue to persist. It doesn't automatically shut down on you if you're actively hosting the meeting. Set the time zone of the meeting. You can set if this is going to be a recurring meeting or not, so that same ID will continue to be used. If by default you want host videos on or off, You can choose your audio options. We certainly recommend always using both, especially as a default to allow people to choose how they want to come into a meeting. You can require a password if you want. If you select that, it does bring up an open text box that allows you to put in a password. Enable join before host. This is another thing that I do really like where, you know, especially if perhaps you're going to be running late for a meeting, if you enable join before host, everyone that is going to be a participant in that meeting will be able to still come into the meeting, see each other, hear each other, talk to each other, and could even share their screens. If you don't have that selected, all the participants will see a sign that says waiting for host, basically. So if you want them to be able to come in and talk with each other, you can do that there by clicking that. For scheduled meetings, you could use your personal meeting ID. As a best practice, we typically recommend against that just because it does, if you have two meetings that are scheduled back to back and you're using your personal meeting ID, if the first meeting runs long, other people are going to start joining and they're going to be hearing the previous topic that you talked about. So we often don't recommend using that. If you're using the scheduling on behalf of, you can actually schedule a meeting for yourself, of course, but if you have it set that someone has allowed you to schedule meetings for them, you would choose that here, who you want to schedule a meeting for. And what that would actually do is I would be scheduling a meeting for Greg on his behalf. It would be using Greg's license and his IDs and everything actually, and then when it's time to host the meeting, I personally don't have to be there. Greg just has to show up, hit go, and the meeting will start with him as the host. I do not have to be there. But you can also set an alternative host. So if I do want someone else to be in my meeting that I'm going to be at to also be a host and, you know, help me with some controls or to take over if I have to leave, you could set them there as well. You then click schedule and it takes you to kind of the review page to allow you to see, you know, all the details that you looked at. And you could even click to add it to your relevant calendar. So within the, moving now back to the Zoom client application, you can actually schedule a meeting directly from here as well. So when you're on the home page, you've got the schedule tile available to you. It brings up a similar look and feel screen, just a smaller window, you know, what the topic is, the start time, the duration, enable join before host, and then you can actually choose either Google Calendar or other calendar from here. And we're going to look at the Google Calendar integration on this one. And then if you choose Google Calendar, it'll actually open up your calendar itself and bring up the, you know, within the view of what it would look like within your own calendar. So you can invite all of your guests right away from here. It's automatically a Zoom meeting. All the details are populated for you, and then you can save it to your calendar. If you aren't using Google Calendar and you're using a different calendaring application, you could choose other calendars. And then when you hit schedule, it will bring you up a window that has all the details that you can actually copy to the clipboard and then paste into whatever calendaring application that you may be using. So we mentioned Google a little bit there. We're going to actually look at the Google plugin itself here. So it is available at zoom.us/download. So make sure you download the Google extension. It will show in your browser in the top right, and you'll see the little Zoom icon. And you can actually start instant meetings from there and schedule meetings from there itself as well. So when you click that, it brings up a little window that looks like this, where again, you'll have your settings for particular meetings that you're going to be scheduling. How you're going to be scheduling. Are you scheduling it for yourself or someone else? Again, all the details that you're going to be setting up, enable join before host, password, all the things we talked about. You can also start meetings directly from here. So start meetings with video on or off, just like we saw from the desktop application. You can do that from the Google extension as well. So you schedule a meeting. When you made your settings, you schedule the meeting. It drops you right into your Google Calendar again, just like before. And again, invite your guests, save it, and it'll save it right to your calendar and send out all the invitations. Within Google itself, so if you've started within Google Calendar, if you want to actually go in there first and you're in your normal calendaring application, you hit new event. You can schedule all your time, but you actually now have this button here that says make it a Zoom meeting. So this is actually starting in Google, and you can now turn something into a Zoom meeting instead of starting from a Zoom application like we saw before. So you simply click the button, make it a Zoom meeting. And then again, all the Zoom details pre-populate for you. invite your guests, change your topic at the top if you need to, save it, and it will, again, populate onto your calendar. So we're going to transition now into the Zoom mobile app. So Zoom's got a great mobile application for both Android and iOS. We're going to really just look at the iOS one here. But you can, again, go to zoom.us/download to download the correct application for your phone. First coming down, it'll look like just an application like this that you do have to sign up or sign in from, but you could also join a meeting even if you weren't a host. When you go to sign in, it'll bring you to a similar page here, and you just continue your standard sign-in process. And then this is what the mobile application looks like. You see a list of all the chats that you've had, and if you've been using the chat client, they do show up on your phone as well as available. But you can join a meeting directly from your phone as well. So someone's given you an ID, you're on your phone, okay, great, I'm gonna click join a meeting. You plug in your meeting ID and it'll bring you right into the meeting and you can see everything that's going on. You can schedule or host a meeting. So when you click schedule or host, it then brings you to this screen, which allows you to start a meeting right from here, which will look directly like this. You know, it defaults to being muted and video off, but you can turn them on and off, and you can share some content as well. You can see upcoming meetings from your phone, which is great. So much like the desktop application from your phone, you can also see all the upcoming meetings that you've got. So again, your recurring meetings and then any scheduled meetings, and you could start them from your phone or tablet. You could also, at the top, you'll notice again is your personal meeting ID. So instead of, if it's not one of your regular scheduled ones and you want to use your personal meeting, you can start it, send an invitation right from there. You can schedule a meeting directly from your phone as well. So schedule a meeting, brings up your calendar, choose the video options, the topic, start time, duration, all the things that we've seen before, similar content, host video on or off, meeting password if you're going to use that, allow join before host. It then brings up the calendar. You choose the right calendar that you want it to be associated with. The text of the body will look like this. You hit add and the calendar drops on for you right away. So again, Zoom, any device, anybody, anywhere, desktop, laptops, tablets, and mobile devices, room systems, and again, from your phone. To quickly kind of close it out, there is a support site available, support.zoom.us, sorry. It's a really great support site that you can go to. We have 24/7 chat support available. All these different tiles here take you into different details around content for Zoom support and articles. You can also go to tutorials and training and sign up for further webinars on how to use Zoom if you like. We have several scheduled throughout any given week. If you do register and don't happen to make it, don't worry. By the act of registering, we'll actually send you out the recorded session from that. And if you happen to miss it, when you're going to register and you notice it was a few days ago, we do post each week's recording webinar as well. And again, you can always contact support directly if you needed to. Outside of Zoom support, you also have your great internal support as well at your ASUlearnhelp.appstate.edu support web conferencing. This is really for your internal support. You know, if you're experiencing problems with Zoom and the Zoom application itself, absolutely reach out to us. If you're experiencing any trouble around the integration with Moodle and Zoom, you're going to want to reach out to your local team from there. So that covers it. That is the end of what we're sharing today. Please work with your local team for any questions that you have, and don't hesitate to contact Zoom with any questions. Thank you.